Welcome to the Reasonable Christianity Podcast, a weekly podcast where you get to discover the truth claims, teachings, and practices of Christianity. Here's your host, Roland. Well, hello there, and welcome to the second episode of the Reasonable Christianity Podcast. My name is Roland, and on this podcast, we invite you to consider the truth claims, teachings, and practices of Christianity. Okay, in today's session or today's episode, we're going to discuss the question, what is truth? This is going to be the first part of a two-part episode or two-part series, which will be over 2 episodes. And I'm so excited to speak about this. I mentioned in the first episode that this is perhaps the most important question in our society today. What is truth? We are in a battle for truth, in a war for truth. And this is important, particularly from a Christian perspective, because when we consider what Jesus says about himself in John 18, I want to read it to you guys, and hopefully this will make sense to you guys. So in John 18, verse 37 to 38, Jesus in Pontius Pilate is speaking. The Bible says, "Therefore Pilate said to him, 'So you are a king?' Jesus answered, 'You say correctly that I am a king. For this purpose I have been born, and for this I have come into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice.' Pilate said to him, 'What is truth?' And after saying this, he came out again to the Jews and said to them, 'I find no grounds at all for charges in his case.'" Now notice this. Jesus says to Pilate that everyone who listens, who is of the truth, listens to my voice. And then Pilate says, "What is truth?" And then he doesn't even give Jesus a chance to answer. He just walks away. And this is kind of the attitude that we see with people these days. When you speak to them about truth, the attitude is, "What is truth?" Meaning, who cares? Or all truth is relative. You have your truth, I have my truth. And it reminds me of a scene from a movie called A Few Good Men. And I think I'm going to play the clip to you guys real quick, and then we'll take it from there.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
I just love this movie. I love the acting. I love the dialogue, the writing. All of it is awesome. And this is what I think of when I see people in our society today, because people act like they want the truth. But when they are presented with the truth, they can't handle the truth. We live in a society where we compile teachers and speakers and motivators and people around us that speaks to our sensibilities, that tells us what we want to hear. And so if you are a Christian, this presents a problem, because the biblical perspective on truth is a controversial one. People always speak about Jesus as this kind of inclusive guy who came for everyone, who loves everyone, who's accepting of everyone. But Jesus' message, when he's identifying himself and speaking to the crowds, was clear. And look at what he says in John 14, verse 6. He says, "Jesus said to him, 'I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.'" This is the exclusive declaration that Jesus is making. He's saying that there's only one way to be reconciled to God, and he is that way. Now, if what our culture is saying is true, if there's no objective truth, if all truth is relative, then Christianity can't be objectively true. In order for Christianity to be objectively true, meaning in order for Christianity to be true in the sense that it applies to everybody, there must be objective truth, okay? But these days, we live in a society where the idea of objective truth is being mocked, it's being attacked. Any person that claims to hold to some kind of objective truth is, say for example, you claim to have some truth about the existence of God or the nature of human beings, the fact that we are made male and female, you are immediately branded as being either arrogant, judgmental, or intolerant. This presents a huge challenge for us as Christians, because we want to follow Jesus, we want to be faithful to the teachings of Jesus, and Jesus clearly preached exclusivity when it came to what you need to believe in order to be saved. But even more than that, as Christians, we are not only called to follow Jesus, but we are also called to defend the Christian faith. 1 Peter 3 verse 15 to 16 says, "And do not fear the intimidation, and do not be in dread, but sanctify Christ as Lord in your hearts, always being ready to make a defense to everyone who asks you to give an account for the hope that is in you, but with gentleness and respect, and keep a good conscience, so that in the thing in which you are slandered, those who disparage your good behavior in Christ will be put to shame." So we are called to give a defense for what we believe. And the sad thing is, many Christians don't even know what we believe, let alone why we believe what we believe. So when we are questioned, or when we are just pushed a little bit or challenged a little bit, our worldview falls apart. Okay, so hopefully with these episodes, with these sessions, I can do a little bit to encourage you, to help you to understand that there is such a thing as objective truth, and that the Christian claim is a claim of objective truth. So if Christianity is true, then it's true for all people of all time, whether we like it or not, whether we accept it or not, whether we believe it or not. It's just true. But hopefully we can make the case over the next several episodes. Okay, so what are the objections that people give when you tell them that there's objective truth? We see this a lot with the feminist movement or the LGBTQ movement as well. And some objections that I hear people saying a lot. They say things like, there is no truth. And what we're going to do is later we're going to dissect these objections just to show you guys how, I don't want to say stupid, but how wrong they are, okay? So the first objection is there is no truth. Then second objection I hear a lot is, all truth is relative. Meaning you've got your truth, I've got my truth. Our truths are based on our experiences, and because our experiences differ, obviously our truths will differ. That's the mindset there. Another one I hear a lot is, you can't know the truth. That one is usually also lobbed at Christians to say that, yeah, maybe there is truth, but what makes you think that you know the truth? Who do you think you are to think that you know the truth? That's that objection. Then there's no objective truth. So some people would concede that there is truth, but there's no objective truth, meaning they only subscribe to a relativistic view of truth. Now, if these objections are true, if there is no truth, or if all truth is relative, then Christianity cannot be objectively true. It's just a matter of opinion. You have your opinion, I have my opinion. No opinion can be more right than any other opinion. There's no objective standard to differentiate between us. If there's no truth, then Jesus is a liar. We have to understand this as well. There's no middle ground. Either Jesus is God or he's a liar and a deceiver. As many Orthodox Jews view him as a rebellious Jewish person who was a kind of someone who riled up the people. So he's either God or he's a liar. There's no middle ground. If there's no truth, then the existence of God is a matter of opinion. It's a matter of faith. Okay? This is what's at stake. So that's why we need to attack these issues head on, because there's many fundamental beliefs that we hold are at stake, okay? So in the following 2 podcast episodes, this one and the next one, I will try to demonstrate 3 things. Firstly, I will try to demonstrate that objective truth exists. Secondly, I will try to demonstrate that objective truth can be known. And I would like to demonstrate that Christianity is based on and defined by objective truth claims about reality. Okay, but before we do that, let's just consider for a moment, what are some of the ways that people use to determine truth? Immediately I can think of instinct. So we determine right or wrong if something is true or false by our instinct. We might hear an argument and then you say, it sounds about right, and then you just go with it. Or no, it doesn't sound convincing to me or appealing to me. No, I won't go with it. That leads into the second one, which is feelings. It feels right, and so it is right. That's what you hear many times again in the LGBT community. So you get a guy that's maybe attracted to other men, and he feels that that's a natural attraction for him. So it must be right. Otherwise, why would he have this attraction? Why would God make him like this? That's the argument that's used many times. So it's based on feelings. The other one is based on wish fulfillment. And I see this one particularly a lot among Christians. When they speak about faith as a kind of superpower to get their wishes fulfilled. They go to God and ask Him whatever they desire, even though that desire doesn't correspond with His purpose or His character. And we see people like Creflo Dollar, Mike Todd, and these guys in the kind of prosperity or word of faith movement, proclaiming and promoting this kind of view of faith. So wish fulfillment, whatever you want to be true, that's true. So you get a guy, he's born a guy, but he wants to be a woman, so now he is a woman. But is that how truth works? We'll consider that later. Another more popular one is customs or traditions. So I believe this to be true because this is what we've always believed. This is what my parents believed. This is what their parents believed. This is how I was raised, how we grew up. That's how it works. Another one is, and this is a very dangerous one, is popular consensus. Whatever is true is whatever we all decide to be true together. But all of us know, intrinsically you know that's not a good way to go about truth. Because if that's how it worked, then, say for example, the Nazis, imagine you were a soldier in the Nazi army. You were cultivated in that society. You grew up in that society. You grew up being taught to feel a certain way about Jews. The behaviors you saw around you were normal behaviors. This is just how you guys treat the Jews. So is it your fault that you kill Jews or not? It gets a bit dangerous there. The other one is pragmatism. Pragmatism meaning whatever works for you. Truth is whatever works. Okay? And then the last one is significance. Truth is whatever is significant to you. The problem with these things, these are good ways to determine subjective truths, meaning truths that are significant to the individual and that correspond to the individual, that is grounded in the individual. We'll speak about this later as well. Okay, so let's speak a little bit about what is the nature of truth claims. So before we can determine what truth is, we have to make an important distinction. We have to distinguish between a claim, a truth claim, and established truth, okay? So what is a truth claim? Or what is a claim? According to the Cambridge Dictionary, a claim is to say something is true or is a fact, although you cannot prove it and other people might not believe it. Okay, so a truth claim is a claim that something is true. However, claiming something doesn't make it true. One needs to provide sufficient proof to substantiate the claim. Okay, that's important. The distinction between a truth claim and actually substantiated truth is proof or evidence. So many Christians think belief in God doesn't require evidence. Many scientists or scientific atheists think the same thing. I want to play you guys a clip by Neil deGrasse Tyson just to establish this point a bit.
I have no problems if, as we probe the origins of things, we bump up into the bearded man. If that shows up, we're good to go. Okay? Not a problem. There's just no evidence of it. And this is why religions are called faiths, collectively. Because you believe something in the absence of evidence.
Okay. You see how he defines faith. He defines faith as belief in the absence of evidence. So if you don't have any evidence, then you just choose to give your trust, regardless of the fact that there's no evidence. This definition of faith is incompatible with historical Christianity. This is not how the biblical writers wrote. This is not what they believed. This is not how they lived their lives, okay? Consider Acts 1 verse 1 to 3. Now, I know I'm quoting for the Bible. What I wanted to do first is, later I'm going to substantiate and try to show that the Bible is actually historically accurate. But I do want to just show that sometimes what people do is, opponents of Christianity, they like to caricature Christianity. They don't like to present the arguments of Christianity faithfully. And so I just want to show that the biblical writers had an evidentialist approach to Christianity. Okay? So Acts 1 verse 1 to 3 says, "The first account I composed, Theophilus, was all that Jesus began to do and teach, until the day he was taken up to heaven, after he had given orders by the Holy Spirit to the apostles whom he had chosen." Verse 3, "To these he also presented himself alive after his suffering by many convincing proofs, appearing to them over a period of 40 days and speaking of things regarding the kingdom of God." This is clear. Jesus was proven to be the Son of God as well. Paul says in Romans 1 verse 4, by his resurrection. The resurrection is the proof that Jesus was the Son of God. The claim that he made to be the Son of God was vindicated by the fact that he was raised from the dead. Okay? That's proof. Jesus also allowed Thomas to verify that it was really him when Thomas touched his scars in John 20 verse 26 to 28. So Jesus was an evidentialist, okay? Paul was an evidentialist as well. Consider Acts 17 verse 1 to 3, which says, "Now when they had traveled through Amphipolis in Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica, where there was a synagogue of the Jews. And according to Paul's custom," meaning this is what he always did, "he visited them and for 3 Sabbaths reasoned with them from the scriptures, explaining and giving evidence that the Christ had to suffer and rise from the dead, and saying, 'This Jesus whom I am proclaiming to you is the Christ.'" You see this kind of language in Acts 18, 19 as well. Paul reasoned with them, explained to them, giving evidence to them. That's the approach that the Christians had in the New Testament. So faith, real Christian faith, historical Christianity is not blind faith. It's not faith without evidence. It's faith because of the evidence. So evidence first, and then we choose to trust, okay? This is the kind of language you see throughout the New Testament. For example, John 20 verse 30 to 31 says, "So then many other signs Jesus also performed in the presence of the disciples, which are not written in this book. But these have been written so that you may believe that Jesus the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name." So the whole purpose of John writing his gospel is to convince them, to assure them that Jesus is the Christ. Okay? Consider Luke 1 verse 1 to 4. "Since many have undertaken to compile an account of the things accomplished among us, just as they were handed down to us by those from the beginning, so those who from the beginning were eyewitnesses and servants of the word, it seemed fitting to me as well, having investigated everything carefully from the beginning, to write it out for you in an orderly sequence, most excellent Theophilus, so that you may know the exact truth about the things you have been taught." Again, Luke is writing his gospel after having investigated the events by interviewing the eyewitnesses. This is evidentiary language, because Luke also was an evidentialist. Okay, so Jesus also sent his disciples out to be his eyewitnesses. This term eyewitnesses is such an important term, especially in Jewish culture, because it was an ancient Jewish custom used to establish the truthfulness of a claim. We see this in Deuteronomy 17 verse 2 to 13, Matthew 18 verse 15 to 16, John 8 verse 17, and so on. We recognize this principle as a valid way of giving evidence in our judicial system, because in our courts, we get eyewitnesses to come in to testify to the truthfulness of events. Now, obviously, I wouldn't expect the atheist or opponent of Christianity to know that Christianity is an evidence-based belief system. But I do expect Christians to know it. And the sad thing is, many Christians don't know it. They pretend like faith is just something that is detached from reality. Okay? And even more concerning is, many Christians don't want to know. This is one of the reasons why I started the podcast, to educate myself and to educate other Christians, not only about what we believe, but also why we believe what we believe. Okay, but before I digress too far into the things that concern me regarding how Christians behave, now that we've considered the difference between a truth claim and an established truth, we need to distinguish between two kinds of truth claims. Firstly, there are subjective truth claims. Okay, so What if I told you that Vampire Diaries is the best TV series about vampires? Would you agree? There was a colleague I used to work with, and the two of us used to argue about this. I would say that Vampire Diaries is the best, and she would say no, the originals is the best. Okay? So obviously there are some people that would agree with me and say that Vampire Diaries is the best TV series about vampires, but other people might say Buffy the Vampire Slayer is the best, or Angel is the best, or the originals is the best. The list goes on. The reason why some might agree while others might disagree is because the claim Vampire Diaries is the best TV series about vampires, that claim is a matter of personal opinion. The claim is rooted in the person who holds it. In this case, me. I believe it. I believe Vampire Diaries is the best. In other words, the claim is grounded in the subject, me, who makes the claim. Therefore, we call these kinds of truth claims subjective truth claims, okay? It's rooted in the subject. Now, in contrast, let's say I were to make the statement, the cure for TB is a standard six-month course of 4 antibiotics that commonly includes isoniazid, okay? This is a different kind of claim because this claim is not rooted in the person making the claim. This claim is rooted in the object known as the cure for TB. We call this kind of claim an objective truth claim because if it is true for everyone. And if it is false for everyone. Okay? Therefore, if a person suffering from TB takes the cure, they will be cured of TB, whether they like it or not, whether they believe it or not, because it's objectively true. So then there are two kinds of truth claims. Subjective truth claims that are a matter of personal opinion, and there are objective truth claims which transcends personal opinion. Now, we live in a society where people think that every truth claim is a subjective truth claim. This is particularly true for people when we are considering belief systems. We treat worldviews or religions or belief systems as just a matter of opinion. But this is a mistake. Because claims about the existence of God, for example, are objective truth claims. God exists or he doesn't. Jesus either rose from the dead or he didn't. These claims are either true for everyone or they are true for no one. Either way, the claims transcend personal opinion and preference. If they are true, then Christianity is the cure for the sickness that is killing humanity. The cure for sin. That's why these things are so important. If Christianity is really true, becoming a Christian is not just necessary, it's just reasonable. Okay? Now that we've identified that there are two kinds of truth claims, I want to share a clip of J. Warner Wallace where he helps the audience differentiate between objective and subjective truth claims.
Hyundai automobiles are the coolest cars in the world. Is that objective or subjective? Say it again. It's objective or subjective? Okay. Is there a way you can imagine this could be made as an objective claim about the Hyundai? Oh, you are good. Yes. If we took all cars in the world into garages and measured their air conditioning and discovered that of all the cars made in the world, Hyundais are 2 degrees colder by way of air conditioning than any other make or model, then this could be objectively true. It's not my opinion about cool or hip or neat. It's my opinion about, it's not even my opinion, it's the truth about the object known as the air-conditioned Hyundai. Do you see the difference now?
Okay, so let's recap. Saying that Hyundais are the coolest car is a subjective claim if you mean that Hyundais are the most fashionable, hip, or impressive cars. Why? Because that is a matter of opinion. However, if Hyundais are proven to produce the coldest available temperatures compared to all other car brands in the world, then saying that Hyundai are the coolest cars is an objective claim because the claim is grounded in the object, the air conditioning system of the car. Okay, so at this point, it's important to reiterate that a truth claim is not the same as an established truth. So a claim can be an objective claim and still be false because it doesn't have enough evidence to substantiate it. For example, the claim, human beings have wings, is an objective claim. but it is an objectively false claim because humans don't have wings. It's not grounded in my view or opinion of humans. It's grounded in the nature of humans. A good question to ask when trying to determine if a claim is objective or subjective is, can you make the claim true by changing your view of it? If you can, then it's a subjective claim, okay? If you can change the claim by changing your view or changing your mind, then it's a subjective claim. For example, The Vampire Diaries. Vampire Diaries is the best TV series about vampires. Is a subjective claim because I might change my mind and decide that Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a better series, okay? So it's a subjective truth claim. In contrast, the claim that, say for example, I'm 6 feet tall, that is a objective truth claim because it can be verified or falsified. You can get a measuring tape to confirm that it is the case or not, okay? So people often spend a lot of time arguing about subjective truth claims. But we should be focusing our attention on objective truth claims like the cure for TB or the existence of God, because these kinds of claims are much, much more important. Okay, now we established that there are two kinds of truth claims. And what I want to do now is I want to show you guys that truth claims relate to, or they are always categorized in one or more of these 4 categories, okay? So I call them the 4 M's. So these 4 categories are particularly important when we are considering the way we would go about proving our truth claims. You won't prove a truth claim, a material truth claim, the same way you would prove a conceptual truth claim. But more on this later, okay? So what are the 4 categories in which you can place truth claims? First, the simplest truth claims are always claims about material things. For example, if I were to say, my house is painted pink, that is an objective truth claim about a material thing. It's an objective truth claim about my house. How do we know it's an objective truth claim? Because I can't change the color of my house just by changing my view. Also, the claim can be verified or falsified by observing my house. On the other hand, if I were to say my house is the most beautiful house I've ever seen, that is a subjective claim about a material thing. We know it's subjective because I can change the claim by changing my view. Okay? Second category is mental truth claims, or truth claims about concepts or conceptual truth claims. These are statements and conclusions that are reached by using logic to formulate theorems and arguments that are logically consistent but don't require any physical proof. So math is a good example of these kinds of truth claims. For example, 2 plus 2 is 4. It's an objective truth claim about a concept. You can't change the equation by changing your view of it, okay? It's objective truth claim. The third category is metaphysical truth claims. These are truth claims that pertain to the broad nature of reality. They are truth claims that seek to make assertions about topics like the existence of God, the categories of space and time, the nature of human beings, etc. For example, if I were to say God exists, this would be an objective truth claim. Either God exists or he doesn't. I cannot change whether God exists or not by changing my view. It's not a matter of opinion. It's not even a matter of belief. If God exists, then he exists whether we believe it or not. So metaphysical truth claims are often supported through a combination of philosophical and scientific reasoning. The fourth category is moral truth claims. So these are truth claims about how we ought to live and behave as human beings. These are claims about right and wrong, good and bad. Now, many people think moral values and duties are social contracts that humans agree on in order to have a civil and thriving society. If that is true, then right and wrong is just a matter of opinion, either individually or collectively as a society. If this is true, then we would never be able to adjudicate between two people who have opposing moral views. Take the Nazis, for example. We wouldn't be able to say that they were wrong for what they did to the Jews. It would just be a matter of opinion. However, as Christians, we claim that moral values and duties are objective realities that are grounded in the nature of God. How do we know which one is true? let's look at an example. If I were to say it's wrong to torture babies for fun, and someone disagrees with me, the only way the claim could be an objective claim is if there was a standard outside of both of us to which we can refer in order to substantiate our claim. This is why the tribunal comprised of American, British, and Russian judges found the German officers guilty at Nuremberg, because they concluded that there's a standard of right and wrong that transcends individuals and societies, a standard to which we all must be held accountable. The Christian claim is that the standard is God, but we'll talk more about this later as we continue to make the case, okay? So then if the claim it's wrong to torture babies for fun is true, then it is true for all people of all time because it is an objective claim. Okay, that's it for this episode, guys. Let me just give you guys a summary. So we've come to the end of this second episode. We've established that there are two kinds of truth claims. There are subjective truth claims, which are rooted and grounded in the subject. They are merely opinions or preferences. Then there are objective truth claims, which are grounded in the object of the claim. There is a difference between a truth claim and an established or verified truth. So a truth that is actually backed up by evidence. And then we also spoke about the fact that all truth claims fall into at least one of these four categories. They are either material truth claims, conceptual truth claims, metaphysical truth claims, or moral truth claims. So in the next episode, we will be considering the following topics. We'll be considering the objections to objective truth claims and showing how and why they fail miserably. Secondly, we will be giving a definition of what truth is, as well as the tests. We will consider the tests for truth. And then we will also differentiate between scientific and historical methods for ascertaining truth, okay? And then we're going to look at some of the standards for truth. And then finally, we're going to look at the truth claims about Christianity. And we will try to establish that these claims, if proven true, are true for everyone, whether we like it or not. Okay, thank you guys for listening. And until the next time, remember, the truth matters, and so do you.